President Donald Trump has said that the United States knows precisely where Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is. But for the time being, he is safe from harm. In a post online, Trump said, "We know exactly where the so-called Supreme Leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out." And in brackets, he clarified what he means by that. Kill, exclamation mark, at least not for now. He went on seemingly to call for Iran's unconditional surrender. Meanwhile, Israel is pressing ahead with more airstrikes against Iran's military and nuclear facilities. Iran has been responding with barrages of ballistic missiles.
Air raid sirens sound over central Israel, announcing incoming Iranian missiles. Most are intercepted, but some make it through. In Herzliya, north of Tel Aviv, empty buses at a depot were hit. Iran has retaliated with missiles and drones since Israel began its surprise air campaign against its longtime adversary on Friday. Israeli warplanes have crisscrossed Iran, hitting nuclear installations, missile stockpiles, scientists and generals. The latest target, Ali Shadmani, had been in the top job for just 4 days.
Tonight, following accurate information received by the intelligence branch, we eliminated Ali Shadmani, the most senior military commander of the Iranian regime. He was eliminated in the heart of Tehran. Shadmani served as the chief of staff of the Iranian regime's armed forces and was the man closest to Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei.
In social media posts, US President Donald Trump said he knew where the Supreme Leader was hiding, but that there were no plans to take him out, for now. He also claimed the US had control over Iranian airspace. In Iran, thousands of residents were stuck in traffic jams on Tuesday, trying to flee Tehran as Israeli attacks continued. Earlier, Donald Trump instructed residents to evacuate the capital, leaving people wondering if direct US participation in the bombing was imminent.
And our correspondent, Misha Komadovsky, joins me now from Washington, D.C. Misha, a lot coming out of Washington right now. Trump has met his national security team in the Situation Room. It very much looks like the next steps are being planned here. What kinds of decisions are being taken in the White House today?
Well, the U.S. National Security Team meeting has just ended, running roughly 1 hour and 20 minutes, according to the White House. We got this message from the presidential pool, and there are growing signs that the U.S. may be considering to join Israel's bombing campaign with a possible help with a so-called bunker buster bomb. Military experts here in Washington say such a strike would likely require an American aircraft to carry out the bombing, something that could have serious consequences here. And President Trump is believed to be weighing what could be one of the most consequential decisions of his presidency. He convened his national security team in the White House Situation Room with key cabinet members and advisors present, including Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. President Trump has previously contradicted her on Iran's nuclear progress. While Gabbard said in March Iran was not actively building a bomb, Trump claimed the country was very close to getting a nuclear weapon when Israel launched its recent strikes. As we know, President Trump cut his G7 trip short and returned to Washington. Here, he posted several messages on Truth Social. He said the U.S. now has full control of the skies over Iran and claimed that American military technology is far better than Iran's defenses. In another post, he claimed that the U.S. knows the whereabouts of Iran's supreme leader, as you said, referring to him as an easy target, but said there are no immediate plans to strike. At the same time, he warned that the U.S. won't tolerate attacks on civilians or American troops. These comments follow reports that Trump recently blocked an Israeli plan to kill Iran's supreme leader, and Israeli officials have called those fake news.
Trump's inner circle is divided on the way forward here. How big is the appetite in the administration to get involved more directly in the conflict?
Well, it appears to signal at least a shift in tone here and possibly in strategy. Trump had stated earlier that he preferred a peaceful diplomatic solution, but warned that time to make a deal was running out for Iran. Now he published a post reading simply, as we saw, unconditional surrender, apparently aimed at Iran. While his public messages remain tough, warning Iran and basically boasting of U.S. military dominance, the reported veto and his emphasis on not striking for now may point to a desire to avoid immediate escalation. But again, there are signs that the U.S. may be considering joining Israel's bombing campaign. But for now, we'll have to see and wait for any official statements that follow this national security team meeting that just concluded after 1 hour and 20 minutes.
Now, at the G7 summit, which is taking place while all of this is unfolding in Washington over the border in Canada, French President Emmanuel Macron warned that any attempt to change the regime in Iran would result in what he called chaos. Is he addressing Trump there?
Possibly. We've seen such back and forth between President Trump and President Macron. Today, Emmanuel Macron said he opposes military action against Iran, warning it could lead to chaos. Instead, he called for a ceasefire and a return to talks on Iran's nuclear program. And yesterday, when the U.S. president departed the G7 summit, Macron said Trump had proposed a ceasefire between Israel and Iran and that his early departure could signal progress here. But Trump later denied it, saying he wasn't seeking a ceasefire and that Macron had misunderstood his position. He suggested the U.S. was aiming for something more than just a temporary halt in fighting. And we see now that he demands, and I quote here, unconditional surrender.
That was DW correspondent Misha Komadovsky. Thank you so much. Katrina Sammour is a regional security analyst with the Emirates Policy Center. That's an independent think tank based in Abu Dhabi. She joins us tonight from Amman in Jordan. Welcome to the day. Israel's prime minister says its campaign against Iran is changing the face of the Middle East. In your opinion, what could that mean?
Well, this is very complicated right now. Israel's campaign, first off, is the goals of it are unclear for us in the Middle East. It started off with saying targeting the nuclear infrastructure of Iran. Then it went on to talk about destroying the capabilities of Iranian weapons that can be used against Israel. And then lastly, we have seen the Israeli government alluding to regime change in Iran, which we see with their assaults, whether it's the attacks on the state-run media or targeting the entire top leadership of IRGC, Al-Quds Force, etc. They are trying to destabilize the pillars of the Iranian state power. For us, we always think about the day after. What will it mean if we have a weakened Iran or we have a collapsed regime? I don't think anybody in the Middle East wants to go through another repeat of what happened, for example, in Iraq post the invasion of 2003. And this is the concern for many observers and leaders of the Middle East. While tensions and relationships with Iran have not always been warm between Arab countries and Iranian regime and its proxies, in recent years, specifically post the war in Gaza, we saw Saudi Arabia, Jordan, for example, trying to bridge that gap and promote a more diplomatic approach to dealing with the Iranian regime to try and contain it. And I think this stems from the belief that destabilizing yet another country in the Middle East might lead us down a path of a renewed violence, like insurgencies and non-state actors.
Before we talk more about the day after, I want to talk about the situation at hand, because there is great concern about where this might lead and whether this could lead to a wider confrontation, possibly drawing other countries in, and also the U.S. getting more directly involved. Is there a scenario in which you see that happening, and what would that mean for the region?
I mean, the number one thing issue is Israel cannot destroy any Iran's nuclear reactors on its own. They will need support from their allies, primarily the US, because they will need bunker buster bombs that Israel does not currently have, which means that the US will be involved if the decision was made to destroy the nuclear.
Do you think there's appetite
reactor.
in the White House to get more directly involved?
Actually, we are very confused by the messages coming out from the White House. One day Trump says he hopes there's a peaceful resolution. He's calling Iran back to the negotiating table. And then today we are seeing him just right now saying we have total control over the Iranian sky. We know where the supreme leader is hiding. And I think a lot of analysts assume that this is his way of pushing Iran into a deal that it doesn't want, the deal that Trump put forward or the Trump team put forward, which is having any nuclear reactors or facilities being outside of Iran for a wider regional project that might include Oman, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. But the question is, do Trump and Netanyahu see eye to eye on this matter? Because these are two different players with two different goals at the end. And I don't think Arab countries are eager to get involved. It has been clear for a while now that Saudi Arabia and UAE are charting a new path where they are trying to promote diplomatic relations with neighboring countries, trying to move forward from the tensions of the past. Jordan, for example, where I am in, His Majesty King Abdullah just gave a speech at the EU Parliament urging nations to de-escalate the situation, warning of unknown consequences. Honestly, this is the fear of what will happen and how far will Israel go and how will Iran react. I mean, we hear in Amman every few hours sirens go off, signaling to shelter in place because we have the Amman airspace has been or Jordanian airspace has been breached by either a drone or a missile, and we had some incidents in the past few days where we saw the debris of intercepted missiles and drones fall on Jordanian territory. At one moment in time, it actually hit a house. Thankfully, no people were injured. So the expanded conflict, we still don't know how it will look like. But for me, I personally believe it will destabilize countries where Iran had power or held power before. This aggression and this expansion of war is sending very bad signals to the rest of the Middle East. Countries are wondering where will it stop and who will be next, because we don't understand what the end game is.
Do you then see regional players bracing for what could be seen as a worst case scenario?
I think here in the Middle East, we are still hoping that diplomacy will win. We are still promoting, they are working tirelessly, whether it's Jordan, whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's Qatar. They are tirelessly working to bridge the gap and bring Iran and primarily the US. I think they've lost all hope for the Israeli government to come back or encourage negotiations.
To do that, sorry to jump in there, but what are the diplomatic pressure points that you expect them to seek out in order to find leverage in that conversation?
I think MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, and Trump have a very special relationship now. And Saudi Arabia has a lot of leverage, especially when it comes to its being an economic powerhouse, investments in the US investments in Saudi Arabia, and also the wider project for the Middle East, where we can finally reach a point where we can find a common ground and start working or rebuilding the region after decades of war and conflict. And I think Saudi Arabia is pushing the narrative of economic uncertainty with expansion of war. We see flights cancelled. We see the stock market flip-flop when this attack started. You have the oil markets being affected as well. So I think this is the leverage that Middle Eastern countries will have. Not only the stability and security of the region that will translate elsewhere, but also the implications for world economy in this interconnected age of markets.
I don't want to let you go without asking you about what you think Israel's exit strategy here is, if it even has one.
I don't think there is an exit strategy. Unfortunately, I don't think there is a strategy to start with, because as I explained in the beginning, the goals keep changing. And we've seen this exact same thing play out in Gaza, where it was return of the hostages, dismantling Hamas. Then it turned into, well, we want to displace forcibly displace Gazans from their homeland. Then it is now, let's create an alternative governing system by arming certain groups in Gaza. And this is the way that's happening with the attack on Iran. First it was, we are trying to stop Iranian nuclear capabilities. Then it was, well, we are trying to destroy the weapons, the long-range missiles, the ballistic missiles that Iran is using, and the drones that Iran is using to target us. And now, lastly, we've started talking about regime change. So I don't think there is a coherent plan or strategy, and I think it's just Israel saw an opportunity. It's war on Gaza is still going on, and nobody seems to be able to stop it. Their attack on Lebanon and dismantling of Hezbollah, nobody did anything. And then lastly, it was the expansion into Syria. They are occupying Syrian lands right now, and again, the international community is keeping quiet. So this is just emboldened Benjamin Netanyahu to take more and more drastic measures with the ultimate goal of bombing Iran. I mean, Bibi has been trying to bomb Iran for decades now, and he finally got the chance with a completely silent international community.
That's Katrina Sammour of the Emirates Policy Center. And let's keep talking about this with Gilda Sahebi. She's a German-Iranian journalist and political scientist and joins us from Berlin. Gilda, you are in close contact with your family and friends in Iran. What are you hearing?
A lot of fear, a lot of insecurity. As we just heard, no one really knows what is going on and what is going to happen. What people see mostly is just bombs falling on the places where they live, and especially Tehran is being targeted very extensively. So people are trying to flee from the city. Also, Donald Trump, as well as Benjamin Netanyahu said they should evacuate the city, which is close to impossible because 15 million people live in the wider region of Tehran. And a lot of people are trying to get out, but gas is getting scarce. You can't get money from banks, from ATMs. So people are mostly scared right now and just trying to save their lives.
We heard it a second ago. Donald Trump is significantly ramping up the rhetoric, demanding Iran surrender unconditionally and implying the U.S. could kill the supreme leader if they wanted to. What do Iranians make of this?
I think they take Donald Trump as most people do. They don't know what's true and what's not. A lot of people, of course, in Iran have very mixed feelings at this moment. So first of all, of course, they're scared because there's an immediate danger. But also, having experienced the suppression of this regime for decades, of course, most people, everyone I talk to, are elated that people from inside the regime are being assassinated, basically. They think that this is a just revenge for the murders, for the crimes that they have committed to the Iranian people. And at the same time, they're scared of the Israeli army and what could happen to their security, their lives. And also the Iranian regime is not helping them, is not protecting them. Usually, when like a country is in war, people get help, support. They are told where it's safe, where it's not, but that's not happening in Iran. So people are not really looking at what Donald Trump is saying or not. They're just trying to get to the next day and figure out how to be safe.
Is there any hope that the hardship they're experiencing now, you know, considering the fact that they've lived under a regime of oppression for decades now, could lead to a better tomorrow?
Of course, these are thoughts that I have on their minds, that this might be the end of the regime. It's just not the first thing. Like one person told me, it's so strange. Like she said that she's seeing that these regime people are being targeted and killed, and of course also the weakness of the regime, which is very, very obvious militarily, but also in any kind of way. The regime is obviously very, very weak because it's not able to protect its own people in its own country. And they do think, like she told me, well, maybe Netanyahu or the Israeli army just needs to finish the job now, and because people don't have any control about the war, so maybe this might be the end of the regime. But again, that's not something people can influence. Netanyahu told people to rise up against the government, but now is a very dangerous time. The regime is still as oppressive as it always has been. There was an execution just yesterday of a man who was supposedly an Israeli spy. So the regime is making very, very sure that people are scared of protesting or rising up in any way. So they just feel under pressure from both sides.
That was German-Iranian journalist Gilda Sahebi. Thank you so much for sharing those insights with us, Gilda.
Thank you.
We're going to cross now to Strasbourg, where we can speak to Hannah Neumann, who's the chair of the EU Parliament's Iran delegation. She's a member of the European Parliament for the Green Party. Welcome to DW. Thanks so much for joining us on the programme. I believe EU foreign ministers have been discussing possible next steps today in the Israel-Iran conflict. So can I start by asking you, how should Europe respond?
Foreign ministers indeed met today to discuss possible next steps. We will have a discussion with the HRVP Kaja Kallas tonight in the plenary discussing exactly the same thing. What is crucial is that the European Union stands united, involving also Great Britain and being a reliable actor in all of this mess, frankly said, since Trump is now also going back and forth. What is important that is we protect the civilian population now on both sides, in Iran, but also in Israel, that we make sure that there's no further escalation into other countries, but also that we bring everybody back around the negotiation table. The Iranian regime is right now in a much weaker position, and I think there is a chance that we can find a way to deal with the nuclear issue in a rather short term with very restrictive proposals.
How difficult will it be, though, to have a united response from the EU, given that there's already deep division on how Europe should respond to the situation in Gaza?
The divisions are and were indeed deep when it comes to the response to Gaza. I think when we look at the situation between Iran and Israel, the divisions may not be that deep. There was a unilateral condemnation of the Iranian nuclear program. There is a very high criticism against the Islamic regime, what they are doing to their own population, but also what they are doing in the region. So I think on this call to stop this regime from getting a bomb, we are united. We are united in our fear, our worry that this may spread further, and we are united in seeing ways to protect the civilian population. Frankly said, the population in Iran, it is so cynical. This regime is willing to build a nuclear bomb, and at the same time, they are not building up air defense, they are not building up bunkers, they're doing nothing to protect the very population that they dragged into this war.
Your parliamentary delegation is a channel for official diplomatic engagement with Iran. Do you still have any hope for diplomacy in this situation that we're seeing?
No, frankly said, I mean, in our delegation, we gave up attempts to deal with our counterparts in the Iranian parliament quite a long time ago. A number of us are put under sanctions by the Islamic regime, such as myself. They were staging cyber attacks against us, harassments and threats. So what our delegation is doing is mainly working with the people of Iran, with the civil society. Nevertheless, I think in this situation right now, it needs all hands on diplomacy. The Islamic regime is weakened, and we should make use of that to make them commit to stopping their nuclear program.
One of your delegation's stated aims is to stand with those fighting for democracy and human rights as a delegation for relations with the people of Iran, as you just mentioned. How do you balance that with reining in, with punishing the Iranian regime?
What I think is quite clear is that the regime is weak at the moment. That's our job as the international community. We need to stop them from getting the nuclear bomb. We need to support those on the ground who fight for democratic Iran. If this regime will be brought down, it has to be done by the people of Iran, many of whom are at the moment also afraid of this war. Many are at the moment fleeing of Tehran. Many are deeply worried about their family members that are in prison in Tehran, in Evin prison, in other prisons, that cannot run away from the bombs. So while the high precision strikes of the Israeli government against leaders of the military, against nuclear facilities, are still somehow understandable, announcements such as full evacuation of Tehran are clearly highly problematic, and they spark more fear than they help.
Hannah Neumann, chair of the EU Parliament's Iran delegation, thank you so much for joining us today.